afternoon, YouTube. Tired Metalhead Weatherman here. So today we're gonna take a first look at winter as a climatological outlooks come out for that now. So we're gonna be looking basically at December, January, and February. But also noticed something last night that kind of made me think there's a pretty big Arctic blast that's coming in for most of the country this time around, not just the eastern half. So I figured that I'd just go ahead and cover both. So without further ado, we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. So here's what we have going on right now. This is the 6 to 10 temperature probability outlook. We'll actually go over the actual anomaly numbers in a minute. But as you can see, I was suspicious towards the middle of the month a while back about there being a big Arctic blast, and it definitely looks like one is set to take place here, especially rooted in the central part of the U.S. here. But as you can see here, most of the country has a pretty considerable probability of having temperatures below average here. The only exceptions to that are southern Florida and the furthest parts of the Northeast, maybe towards Rhode Island, Connecticut, Vermont, Maine, etc. So we move this to days 8 through 14. And it's pretty much actually the same story, to be honest. Even the far north reaches of the Northeast here end up eventually getting into below average temperatures as we get further into the middle of the month here. And then the only place that really has slightly above average temperatures is the far southern reaches of Florida. But everywhere else, we're going to be at below average temperatures, pretty much nationwide here. So we'll go ahead and take a look at what the precip looks like. Usually, cold blasts like that is a good indicator that we are going to have a lot more drier weather, and this definitely looks to be the case for a lot of the country. Towards the eastern seaboard, I do think that things will begin to ramp up a little bit more and get more active. And then as far as the rest of the country, a lot of areas are going to be drier than average. There's a little plume of moisture that may pop up and go through central Texas, which will be welcome news for them because they struggled with the drought a lot earlier this year. And then over towards the Sierra Nevadas, over towards the west is where we're looking at potential for a little bit of activity there as well. So we go through to days 8 and 14, and this plume of moisture starts to extend northward towards the central part of the U.S. And then the dry areas kind of start to shrink a little bit. We're starting to see a little bit more of the equal chance, which is indicated in the areas in the white here that have no color basically. But towards the far northeast and maybe even towards Michigan and Wisconsin, looks like we have a slightly higher than average chance of being dry. So just a little bit more stuff to look at here. So now here is the anomaly here. These are basically going to be what the temperatures look like in comparison to average right now. You can see that the east is definitely warmer than average. In some places, we're looking at almost 20 to even 30 degrees above average in a lot of places. But you can see it right here towards the far northwest here, just north of the border. Cold air is coming in with a vengeance, looks of it here. So we get into Monday afternoon, starting to make its push into the northeast or northwest. Excuse me. Oops, I have clicked the wrong button once again. So we have our Arctic blast here getting into the reaches of the northwest, into the far reaches of the northwest here. We have temperatures looking like there could be 20 to 30 something degrees below average. And then we move this along, and this air starts to push a little bit further inland as we get towards the middle or latter half of this week. We do have a ridge here that tries to surge a little bit more warm air into the central part of the U.S. here. Some areas could be seeing temperatures 20 to 30 degrees above average, but as we move this along, cold air eventually will win this battle, and Just when we start to see this area of cold air starting to lose out a little bit, it gets reinforced by another shot here. And then as we move this along, we have a very strong area of cold air here where we could have temperatures maybe even up to 40 degrees below average. And eventually this air begins to widen out and start to reach further and further to the east here. Starting to look like we're getting that little pattern flop, maybe potential for a positive PNA. So we move this along. There is a little bit of a warm surge to the west, to the desert southwest, but even so, it's not by much. Move this along, and just pretty much the cold air has spread it pretty much all throughout, has begun to spread all throughout the country. I do think the west is going to be a little bit warmer than the east, so I'm thinking definitely we're leaning towards a positive PNA for right now. But it looks like the southeast really starts to dig into a cooler than average type pattern here. Central US is definitely looking like they're going to be the most affected by these next couple Arctic shots here. So that's what we got going on for the short term. Let's go ahead and look at the long term here. So this is our first look at the winter outlook here. Obviously, I can't see far enough into December, January, February, obviously, to really talk about any sort of storm systems or anything like that. But from what we can see here so far, it looks like over this 3 month average, definitely looks like the far northern reaches of the U.S. are going to be below average, which makes sense for that time of year. And towards the Sierras and the southern plains and the southwestern parts of the U.S., anywhere around the southern U.S., I think we're going to be looking at a potential for above average temperatures. Not high confidence in that though either, so it could very well flip flop between now and the start of December, so to speak. So we'll have to watch that. There is a little bit more increased confidence the further south we get, especially as we get towards southern Texas, towards the desert southwest, and then of course Florida and maybe the Gulf states. That's where confidence is going to be a little bit higher for above average temperatures. Not surprising. Climatologically speaking, it's correct, so that's nothing new there. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the precip outlook here. It's a better view of it. And pretty much it's going to be in conjunction with the areas that are going to be cooler than average for the most part, and areas that are warmer than average. Cooler than average, it seems like we're getting more chances for precipitation, be it rain or snow. And then the further south we go, looks like we may have chances for a drier than average winter as of right now. Confidence is going to be highest, of course, toward the southwest, southern Texas, and then of course we always have to look toward. Then of course we always have to look towards the Gulf states. There is one factor though that I'm keeping in mind though, and that is the fact that we're still kind of looking at hurricane season going on a little bit closer to the country. And honestly, in my opinion, I kind of feel like that we may have tropical entities even going beyond the traditional end of hurricane season, which will be November 30th. So that's an X factor to say the least. So don't read into this too much. Again, I've said this in plenty of my outlooks before. Do not believe that this is going to mean that you aren't going to get any rain or snow or anything whatsoever. All it takes is one storm track to change, and this can pretty much be rendered useless. But in all likelihood, I have a fair amount of confidence in this. So I'm just trying to let you guys know what's ahead, or what could be ahead, I should say. Let's finally go ahead and take a look at the temperature outlooks. So we're just going to go about 3 months ahead into this. Any further than this is honestly useless right now. We're not looking for spring as of right now. We're looking for winter. So here's what we have right now. It looks like December is going to start out being a warmer than average month for almost the entire U.S. according to the CFS as of right now. And then towards January, it looks like we do get a pretty big cold blast that definitely tries to dig into the northeast here. Looks like we're in that positive P&A pattern once again. But once we get into February, it looks like that pattern flip-flops entirely, and then we're starting to look at more of a negative P&A type setup. So that's pretty much all I can show you for right now. That's all the information I have at this time. We'll revisit it. We'll be revisiting this probably over the next couple of weeks here, especially depending on how our weather pattern in the short term goes. Because obviously, I'm going to try to do what I can to keep you informed on any severe weather or tropical threats, which we have a few going on right now. But that's it for this video. If you liked what I did here, definitely drop me a like. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on this event, on the first outlook of winter here, and definitely subscribe. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers by the end of the year, and we're close. We only got 9 more to go. I don't see any reason why we can't do it. But either way, enough rambling here. This has been Tyre, Metalhead Weatherman. I will see you guys in the next video.